Hey, what do you say? This is Bobby Blitz from Overkill. That's right, we're on Agoraphobic.com. You're in the right place.
Do you write all the lyrics?
Yes. I mean, the other guys give me ideas, but
What's the personal inspiration?
well, it's I don't necessarily write from factual or social or political standpoint. Sometimes I'm motivated by it, but I think that the outcome is much more of a fantasy based on life principles. What are the values that the person has? And on the last record, what I tried to do was create character that went through the entire record, where he's alone at the beginning and where he's not alone at the end. So I think it was just more of a
Concept.
yeah, it's just a life issue. It was just a story. I suppose some of it's personal, because I think that's where you get committed lyric from, is when it has something to do with personal identity.
Yeah, that's right. What's the motto of bands? Do you have any motto for, do you have an old school song, and it's like everything that Overkill is? Do you think that that's the motto of the band?
Old school? Not really. I think that Overkill is, we know what we are. We don't have an identity crisis. We understand what we are and we understand what we do well. We don't consider it old school. We consider ourselves to some degree progressive in what we do.
Yeah, right. Because the sound developed throughout the years.
Well, sure, the sound develops, but I think if you think of yourself as just old school, you remain in the past. If you live in the past, you have no value in the future or in the present. So I think of the band, and obviously we're not a progressive band, we're a thrash band, but I think of us progressive when it comes to our thinking.
What's your favorite era of the band? I mean, you have from Feel the Fire to Horoscope, then you have I Hear Black to From the Underground and Below, and then you have some groovy stuff like Thunder.
Shine.
Yeah, right.
Ahead, yeah. It's nice to see that we could do more than just one thing. That was always, that was always fun. You keep it interesting to the guys in the band, and then the band performs well. I think the best chemistry we have as a band is this lineup.
David Linsk.
Linsk is the longest-standing guitar player in Overkill, and he's just an absolute shredder. I think he's one of those guys who doesn't get talked about enough, but is as good as any of the rest of them.
He rules from the shadows.
Okay, very good. He rules from the shadows. But Ron Lipnicki, I think, has a lot to do with this chemistry too. He's a fantastic drummer, and he's given us almost a newfound energy. So I think that with this lineup, we have a great chemistry.
You can all feel it. I mean, so you were signed for Nuclear Blast.
Mm-hmm.
Are you happy about the promotion and stuff like that?
Well, sure.
You have some problems with major labels because they can push the band to do stuff that the band doesn't want to do or something like that.
That's, that is, Nuclear Blast is good because they're fans.
Yeah. Right.
Major labels are good because they are promotion machines. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a huge misconception that when you're on Atlantic Records that, somebody's telling you must do this. It's just not that way. If it ever came down to you must do this, then I think that the idea of the band's purity is lost. And I even when we were on Atlantic Records, sure there was guys in suits and ties who run the numbers, but the guys that you work with are guys in t-shirts. I mean they're rock and roll heavy metal guys. So I've never had the experience where we've been told, do it this way, or you can't do that, or you can't use the word fuck in a song. Never happened.
And what about Megaforce and CMC Records?
Megaforce was a great
John
introduction.
Zazula and
Yeah. Johnny Z. I mean, we knew Johnny from a record store he owned in Clark, New Jersey, and called Rock and Roll Heaven. And he would import discs that we couldn't get in other record stores. This is pre-internet, and so we could get our hands on a Destruction LP, we could get our hands on Creator, Sodom, etc. So that was a great relationship with Johnny. He was a true believer. And CMC, I think what CMC had was a great business plan because they wanted to take valuable music and they wanted to make sure it didn't go away, and at the same time build it. So, before CMC was over, they were part of the Sanctuary group with a label called Metal Is. So Rod Smallwood from Iron Maiden was a part of that CMC organization.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's cool.
But tell me, you have like 17 albums, and in the 90s, the thrash metal was in decline because of the grunge scene and nu metal. But how did you manage to do so much albums in the 90s? I mean, they're all like classic ones because of the power they have.
I think the band's sound changed a hair in the 90s. I think we became...
I Hear Black.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, and it still is recognizable as Overkill. But I think that the idea was that we weren't necessarily trying to reinvent ourselves, but we were for sure trying to stay interested in what we were doing. What we ended up achieving was when everyone else kind of stopped playing, or many bands stopped playing.
But why did they stop? Because of the...
I think they stopped because of organizational issues. If you're not organized enough, you can't go get that record deal, or you turn it down because it's the money's not enough. And I think Didi and I started managing the band then.
That was right. Yeah.
And we started understanding, hey, we have to make our machine tighter, and we have to make our machine cost effective, and we can still do this. I mean, this is not like something that is this great revelation. It's just what our parents taught us. Do what you love, do it well, and you'll be a happy man. And it was simple. So there was never talk of us between Didi and myself of saying, hey, let's stop doing this. It was always, how can we do it better? And I think that's probably where some of our success comes from.
Yeah, and I think it was a great deal that you had money. I mean, all the money was in your hands. There were no agents to buy stuff for you.
Yeah, there was. We were taking the management share, and this gave us more of a cash flow or a money flow to be able to achieve and accomplish the goals we set for ourselves, and pay our guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have a fucking band and just say, hey, listen, tell your baby that she's not eating this week. It's not fucking okay. The money has to be there every week.
Yeah, right.
So I think that, it's something that, we only think of it ourselves as, it's the way we were brought up in New Jersey. This is what all parents in New Jersey teach their children. And so I guess we were listening.
Can you tell me something about the music industry today? Do you appreciate it, or you kind of dislike it?
It's not a dislike of it. I think that to be to release quality music, you have to be able to adjust to a changing time. Sure, we come from the 80s, but we live in 2015. If we're held for value for what we do today, then that's what I'm most proud of. The reason we can be held for that value is because we've adjusted. We understand that we're not going to make money on royalties, that we're going to sell less records, that there's going to be downloads, but how do we reinvent our business? Yeah. So it becomes a challenge, but I'm not saying I dislike it, because, I mean, man, it's fucking 30 years after I started, I'm having a conversation with Milos in, in Belgrade. It's still cool that there's new things happening. So It lives. I mean, and that's a great way to think about it. I think that it's really one of our principles is to do the best under the circumstances, and we've adjusted. We understand that technology is necessary.
Yeah, of course. Is the Years of Decay your most the best-selling record ever, or?
I don't know. It's always rumored. It's always on Wikipedia. When we first, Wikipedia is so ridiculous sometimes because the numbers that are on Wikipedia have nothing to do with the reality of the numbers. It said something like 70 million copies.
I've seen like 15
No.
million. Is it even a million?
No.
Yeah, I think.
So it's just not true. It's which one is the best? They told me when we first got numbers from Atlantic Accounting said the biggest was I Hear Black followed by Horoscope.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Those are great. Man.
But that was the when they started taking scans of it. Before that, it wasn't scanned. So.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna ask you something about song Elimination. Was it recorded last on the record? I heard something from Bobby Gustafson that song was like the last because of the time. You ran out of the time in the studio, so you kind of rushed it, and then.
I don't remember. I don't remember if it was last. I do remember that the other guys got it together and I couldn't. That I couldn't get the tracks together. I was trying and every day coming back. So it's possible that it was the last one. I remember Terry Date was producing and he said, because I just couldn't sing the fucking song, and he would light candles, he would try to make it a different room, he would, he'd put all the lights on or make it dark, or say if you want to sing naked, do whatever you can to get this song done. And so it probably was the last song, but I don't remember it as being rushed. I just remember it as being hard.
And you had air on MTV for that song. It was like repeated over and over again.
The video.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So do you think that helped the band a lot, or?
Yeah.
I mean, all MTV in the 90s, 80s, it was really a big deal for.
Huge promotion machine. It took us to Belgrade. We could be in New Jersey and you could see us in Serbia. We're not in Alaska, but you could see us. We're not in Russia, but you could see us. So I think it gave us international profile. And so that was a great promotional tool for us.
I'm gonna ask you about Overkill songs. You have like Overkill 1, 2, 3, and 5. But what's the fourth? Is it Evil Never Dies?
Yes.
But why didn't you just name it?
Well, just because you can be your own boss. And I think that was a Bobby Gustafson title. And when we had talked about it, that was going to be the fourth Overkill. And then we stopped doing it again all the way until Immortalis. Then we did a song called The Brand. Yeah.
The Brand.
Yeah.
What was the turning point for the band? I mean, was there any crucial moment that when you kind of became a big band?
Well, I think that with the explosion of MTV, regular visibility on MTV, and then starting our headline tours. And our headline tours started for the Years of Decay. That's when we were. It was 89 into 90. Under the Influence was 88. We were still opening then. We had opened for Slayer, Motorhead.
Anvil, pardon me. Anvil in '84, I think.
Yeah, but that wasn't a tour. That was just it was one show. Yeah. We had opened for Slayer, Megadeth, Motorhead.
Tour with Halloween. Yeah, right.
And
87.
But right, and now we're doing our own shows, and I think because of MTV, Viva, other music outlets, it gave us the opportunity to break a little bit bigger for Years of Decay.
Can you tell me something about I Hear Black album? Because it was really some album that's when Overkill started.
This way, and I think that the whole thing was. you're hearing really a new band. You know, I remember when Ron joined the band, I said, listen, man, I said, this has nothing to do with me on that stage. It's all about you. You are the captain of the ship. Where you say goes, because we have to follow you. So I think that what you hear in I Hear Black is thicker riffs, thicker.
It's kind of groovy, but
Kinda groovy.
Not as groovy as Thunderhead or Bloodletting.
Yeah, sure. But I remember a guy telling me once that he was a journalist. He said, he was a friend of mine, and he called me up and he said, I hear Black Sabbath.
Yeah, right. It was all like that. I had a friend and he was like, I liked 80s album at the time, and he was like, whoa, you got to check out all the 90s albums. And I asked him, what's the difference? And he said, well, it's like a child of a Black Sabbath or something.
Yeah, we've, but it was a nice run for us because, it was at a time when it didn't matter what we did. Because the scene was not an exploding scene. We could do whatever we wanted to do.
Because the scene was dead.
The scene was dead, so it doesn't matter, right? You can't lose.
Do you think that thrash metal was dead after the Clash of the Titans tour, or?
No, I don't think so. I think that it went underground. But I think the beauty of this music is that it transcends generations.
Yeah, right.
Is that it's. I see grandpas and grandsons at festivals, and that's kind of cool that it holds that type of value or something that's that, a value that's that long.
Can you tell me something about Bobby Gustafson and his departure from the band?
I'd rather not. No, I'd rather not. I don't talk about personal things like that.
Here's a good one. Thrash metal was all about mayhem, destruction, post-nuclear apocalypse stuff in the lyrics. Do you think that was a cliche or it was the main purpose for whole genre? Because you have Chernobyl explosion, and after that, every band was in that direction.
Well, you have to understand it was, you're a much younger man, living back in the 80s and growing up in the 70s. That the unique thing was that we lived in a world where the Cold War was, on the front page of the newspaper all the time. Mr. Gorbachev and Khrushchev before that, and then even later on today we still see remnants of such things. So it was probably the fear that most Westerners or free world people had was that big war. And when Chernobyl blew up, and 2 weeks later I'm on my first tour in Germany. My mother is telling me, she wrote me all these letters and said, don't eat any fresh vegetables because because it all has nuclear waste in it, So it's a fear, and this is the way our parents grew up, and this is what we had. So it's not a cliche, but probably a great representation of what that era depicted.
And can you tell me something about you were in Poland in '87 and you got arrested because of the espionage or something?
That wasn't me. That was Bobby and Vernie. Yeah.
But is there any situation like that happened that can represent that Cold War madness?
I remember when we first started touring Europe, one of the things I remembered most was that all the fears I had about the East had nothing to do with the people once I met the people.
Yeah, right.
And when we would get stopped...
That's propaganda.
We would go into Berlin and we would be stopped going into East Germany. And there would be a commandant or a commander, and he was loud, and he was making all the buses open and the trailer open. But the guys with the guns who were standing on the bus would go, do you have a guitar pick?
Okay, so we have to finish it. Can you tell me the main difference between East Coast thrash and West Coast? Is there any difference?
I think the West Coast had a sound unto themselves when it first started. I mean, you could tell by listening to a band from the West Coast where they were from because they kind of shared an identity. I think the bands from the East Coast were born of the new wave of British heavy metal and East Coast punk. So that's what we hear in our Anthrax or Nuclear Assault. That's what I hear in our Overkill. So I think that there was a marketable difference.
Can you describe a 21st century man?
Well, you know, it's funny in that song because it's a really all I was trying to say in that song is everything I know to be true is now a lie.
Okay, is there any country that you like to tour a lot? Or
Well, I love coming to Germany. It's like a second home.
they're the most loyal fans?
It's not even the loyalty. It's just that I've toured there so much. I have so many friends. I have a day off in Germany. I'm in a beer garden having bratwurst, and we're in a brewery, and I've known girls from the early days and guys, so I have more friends there. So it's just one of the places I like touring, just so I could see old friends. And I love touring the States. I love it.
Yeah, and the last question is green or black?
Oh, gee. I'm a big hockey fan, so for me, it's actually red and black.
Okay, it was a pleasure.
Okay, Milos. My pleasure.